My brothers and sisters, may the Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. Jesus said, "What is the kingdom of God like? To what can I compare it? It is like a mustard seed that a man took and planted in the garden. When it was fully grown, it became a large bush, and the birds of the sky dwelt in its branches." Again he said, "To what shall I compare the kingdom of God? It is like yeast that a woman took and mixed in with 3 measures of wheat flour until the whole batch of dough was leavened." The Gospel of the Lord. When we look at the recounting of the ministry of Jesus and in turn the early church, it's obvious from what we read that it was after the resurrection event, and probably precisely because of the impact that it had, that the church all of a sudden began growing very, very considerably. We hear about, for example, in the Acts of the Apostles, that at the Pentecost event, as they're speaking in Jerusalem, thousands of individuals became Christians. But during the course of Jesus' own ministry, it was a relatively small group. And in fact, the very people one would have anticipated would have recognized the message and been willing to follow him are precisely the ones who do battle with him. And so the disciples, I'm sure, during that process is beginning to wonder once in a while, what's happening and what good are we doing? Where are things happening and changing for us? And so Jesus today, in this account from Luke, gives 2 little stories about what the kingdom of God is all about. And both of them sort of depict the fact that it is not so much the quantity, it is rather the quality that marks what the community of God is all about. And so he speaks first of all about a mustard seed, a very tiny seed that it becomes a bush, and a whole score of different birds can sit in it. And of course the birds are symbolic of the birds that are the Christians, the gamut of backgrounds and philosophies and ideologies that we're able to take on as a common cause and faith, the message of the gospel. And then he gives the second image, the image of the wheat, 3 measures of wheat flour being mixed with yeast. And it's interesting, the 3 measures of wheat flour could actually make up enough bread to take care of about 150 people. And so it was not a huge group, but it is still nevertheless a noticeable group. And so in both instances, Jesus is suggesting to the apostles and to us that the church grows slowly but surely, but it does grow. And it's not according to the attitudes and approaches of man that makes the difference, but the way God sees what happens that makes the difference. During the course of the 60s, especially, when the church was in the United States growing considerably, we were building all sorts of buildings in order to sustain and support it. Tons of churches were built. Seminary, we built a seminary here at that time. And then all of a sudden, during the course of those decades that followed, the church seemed to get smaller again. And we sometimes found ourselves probably coming to the same experience and understanding that the apostles did. You know, where did we go wrong? What happened that all of a sudden it's much smaller than once was? And so we're reminded today that, again, the most important thing is the quality of what we are, not the quantity of the numbers. And if even 1 or 2 souls are saved, that one sheep that Jesus speaks about, that of itself is more priceless than anything.